Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yeji, like yay G, and my channel is all about saving money while traveling because let's be real, traveling can get expensive. So if you don't have to spend money, why would you, right? So if that sounds interesting to you, then let's be internet besties and consider subscribing below, and let's get into today's video. So today I wanted to talk about Capital One, and Capital One is not as popular, I would say, as like Amex or Chase or even Citi. But they have a few cards, 3 actually in particular, that I want to talk about today that I feel like is worth talking about. And these cards are the Venture X, the Venture, and the Savior card. So starting with the Venture X has a $395 annual fee. But in my opinion, that $395 is worth it to keep this card. And I say that because it gives you 10x on hotels and rental cars on Capital One Travel. It gives you 5x on flights and vacation rentals also on Capital One Travel. It gives you 2x on everything. It gives you $300 travel credit every year. So technically your annual fee will only be $95, right? And it gives you global entry / TSA. And on top of that, it gives you 10,000 points every anniversary. So whenever your renewal hits, it'll give you 10,000 points. This card also gives you access to Capital One lounges as well as Priority Pass lounges. It has no foreign transaction fees, so it's an excellent travel card. Now, if you compare that to the regular Venture card, the Venture card is $95 in annual fee. It also has no foreign transactions. It gives you 5x on hotels, vacation rentals, and car rentals on Capital One Travel. And it also gives you 2x on everything else. But the difference between the Venture X and the Venture is that it doesn't give you the travel credit or global entry and TSA, and of course the 10,000 points on renewal, but also the multipliers. So if you look at the Venture X, it gives you 10x on hotels and car rentals. But the regular Venture only gives you 5x. $395 might seem a lot for the Venture X, but if you deduct a $300 credit that you can pretty much use anywhere on the Capital One portal, it's gonna be the same as a regular Venture, but it gives you more multipliers, and that $10,000 points is worth more than $95. On the Capital One website, it actually says $10,000 is worth $100. So you're pretty much getting $5 more to keep this card. Of course, in my opinion, I feel like 10,000 points is worth a little bit more than $100 if you consider transferring it to partners and book business class or first class flights. So I'd pick the Venture X any day over the regular Venture, because if you're gonna get 2x anyways, might as well get a higher tier card that also gives you lounge access with more multipliers. Now the Savior card has $0 annual fee. Actually, a while back, they used to have a $95 annual fee Savior One card, and I don't know what happened to it, but they got rid of it on the website, and I don't know when it's gonna return. But now the only option is the regular Savior Rewards card, and that is $0 in annual fee. It also has no foreign transaction fee, and it gives you 5% hotels and car rentals on the Capital One Travel. It gives you 3% on groceries, dining, entertainment, and streaming services, and it gives you 1% cash back on all other purchases. Now you've noticed that I said cash back and I mentioned percentages instead of the multipliers like 2x or 5x or 10x. And that's because this card is technically a cashback card. But if you have the Venture X or the Venture card, then you can get points instead of cash back. So it's the same concept as the Freedom cards, like the Freedom Flex or the Freedom Unlimited. And if you have like a higher tier Chase card, then those cashback cards essentially become point cards. On that note, if you haven't seen my take on the Chase cards, then I'll link it above here so you guys can go check out my Chase video. But going back to the Capital One cards, another card from Capital One is the Quicksilver lineup. I don't really see the point of opening up Quicksilver cards, so I won't get into the details, but pretty much there are $0 annual fee cards that give you 1.5% cash back, which is similar to the Chase Freedom Unlimited card. And a lot of the times these are like the stepping stool cards. Like the first cards you open up to increase your credit score and kind of dip your toes into the credit card journey. And once you have that Quicksilver card, maybe you can upgrade it to the Venture or the Venture X. Capital One also has application rules that you need to know before applying for their cards, just like every other bank out there. They have a 48-month rule, which states that if if you opened up a card and received a bonus, then it has to be 48 months later until you can open up another card. And they also have another rule where you can only open up one card every 6 months. And they say it only applies to Capital One cards, but in my experience, I think that they mean all cards. Capital One pulls your credit from all 3 bureaus, and they look at your credit history. So if you opened up an Amex card within that 6 months, they will deny you. And I say this from personal experience because when the Venture X came out, I was able to get the Venture X when I applied. My husband also applied and he tried to get it, but he was denied because there were too many inquiries on his credit account. And we've never applied for a Capital One card, so that only got me thinking they most likely look at all your credit history and not just Capital One cards. We like to regularly open up new cards. So I want to say every 3 to 5 months, we open up new credit cards just because we want to build our credit score and also build our points. And my husband had a higher credit score than I did, but he just had more inquiries on his account. So that gets me thinking that it's not just Capital One. You have to look at all your credit cards that you opened up within that 6-month period. Another rule is that they only allow you to hold 2 personal cards at once. Meaning you can have the Venture X and the Savior card, but you can't have Venture X, the regular Venture, and the Savior card at the same time. And this doesn't include business cards. Business cards are separate. This is just for personal. I think this makes a lot of sense because if you have the regular Venture card, you will most likely want to upgrade to the Venture X because Venture X, you're not really losing money, whereas the regular Venture card, I feel like the $95 is kind of worthless. Whereas I feel like the multipliers and the benefits you get from that card is kind of worthless compared to the $95. So you're dishing out $95, whereas the Venture X, you're kind of gaining $5 like I mentioned before. And on the other hand, if you have the Venture X, you won't likely to downgrade to the Venture card because you know how valuable the Venture X card is. So it's not like you're gonna hold both these cards at the same time. But you can substitute with another card such as the Savior card, where it gives you bonus categories on dining and grocery stores. So Capital One wants you to be part of their ecosystem essentially and hold more than one card. Just like how Amex and Chase and Citi all have like their credit system set up, Capital One is the same. Now, if you're able to hold 2 of these Capital One cards, it's either gonna cost you $3.95 or $95 depending on which route you go. If you go to the Venture X route, I don't think you're losing any money at all. So there's no harm in opening up both the Venture X card and the Savior card since Savior card has $0 annual fee. So why wouldn't you open it and still be able to get the bonus for opening up a new card? I would say that it's cheapest to hold 2 Capital One cards compared to other banks such as Amex, Chase, or Citi. And with Capital One, you'd still get that travel multiplier, where the only main difference would be that you're kind of forced to book through the Capital One travel portal instead of having to book directly with the airline or directly with the hotel. And if you're okay booking through the Capital One portal, which essentially is like a third-party portal like Expedia, then I think Capital One cards is an excellent choice for you. Just a couple of years ago, Capital One wasn't that big of a bank, I would say, because they didn't have any transfer partners at the time. But then slowly they started adding transfer partners and a lot of people started looking at their cards and they started refreshing their cards, which allowed them to kind of compete with the 3 big banks. Their transfer partners are still not as large as the other banks. I'd say their transfer partners are quite solid. A lot of the airlines you would find with Chase and Amex and Citi, you can also find with Capital One. I'll leave a link to Capital One Travel Partners in the description box below so you guys can go download it anytime. And in case you haven't noticed from me talking about the Venture X, that is like my ride or die card. I value that card so much. It's in my wallet at all times and I use it for everything and everything. You can't really beat 2x for every dollar you spend. I mean, if there was a bank out there that gave me 3x back on everything, I mean, I would take that any day, but there isn't. So 2x is the best that I'm gonna get. And with this 2x card, you can pretty much use it on anywhere from taxes to school fees to utilities, pretty much anywhere except mortgages, in my opinion. And it's a Visa, so it's accepted worldwide. Because we all know sometimes when you travel outside the US, it's kind of hard to find merchants that are willing to accept an Amex credit card or even a regular MasterCard. Visa is just a lot more common. So I think that even if you own Chase or Amex or Citi cards, I think Capital One cards, at least one, like when I say one, I mean Venture X, needs to be in your wallet because you're not losing any money holding that card. The one thing I like about Capital One is that they give you the points as soon as you use the card. So you don't have to pay off the card in order for you to receive your bonus points. Right away, if you spend $2, they'll give you 4 points instead of waiting until the statement closing date, which I really like because then it gives you the most updated look on what your points are. So if you don't have a Capital One card, I suggest you go and open up a Capital One card right away because there's nothing to lose. Anyway, I hope today's video about Capital One was informative and helpful. It's one of my favorite banks now, and I hope it's the same for you as well. If you've made it this far, then please consider liking and subscribing below, and I'll see you guys next time with another video. Bye!